Have you looked at your comb or pillow lately and wondered if this is just hair fall or the start of hair loss? The reassuring part is that some daily shedding is completely normal, especially after stress, illness, or changes in routine. But if you are noticing a visible change in density or a pattern that keeps progressing, that is worth taking seriously. At Bare & Beauty Aesthetic and Wellness in Sector 50, Noida, we often meet people who are worried but unsure what their hair changes really mean. In this video, we'll walk through the difference between temporary hair fall and progressive hair loss in a simple, medically responsible way. And by the end, you'll know which signs can be observed at home and when an in-person consultation may be the better next step. Your hair naturally goes through a cycle of growth, rest, and shedding. That means losing some strands every day is part of the normal process. Sometimes that shedding increases for a while after stress, poor sleep, a recent fever, or recovery from an illness. It can also happen with nutritional imbalance, hormonal shifts, or aggressive hair practices like frequent heat, tight hairstyles, or harsh treatments. In many of these situations, the shedding is temporary. The key is to watch whether the volume returns or the overall density keeps dropping over time. Hair loss usually looks less like a few loose strands and more like a gradual change in how full your hair appears. You might notice a widening parting, reduced volume in the ponytail, or more scalp showing under bright light. For some people, it shows up as a receding hairline or thinning around the temples. For others, it may look patchy or uneven. These patterns do not confirm a diagnosis on their own, but they do suggest that a proper scalp and history-based assessment can be useful. If shedding has continued for weeks without improving, that is one reason to stop guessing and get it checked. If your hair is looking thinner overall, the scalp is becoming easier to see, or the parting keeps widening, that also deserves attention. A receding hairline, patchy areas, or sudden heavy shedding after seeming normal for a long time are also important warning signs. And if hair changes come with itching, persistent dandruff, discomfort, or scalp tenderness, it is a good idea to have the scalp examined properly. You do not need to panic. You simply need a clearer understanding of what is causing the change and whether early support would help. Many people first try changing shampoos, massaging oils, taking supplements, or following home remedies from the internet. The problem is that hair changes can have very different causes, and what helps one person may do very little for another. If the root issue is stress, scalp inflammation, nutritional deficiency, hormonal influence, or pattern thinning, the approach should match the cause. That is why self-treatment alone may delay proper care, especially when the hair density is already changing visibly. At Bare & Beauty, the first step is not rushing into a treatment. It is understanding your story properly. That includes when the shedding started, how long it has been going on, whether it is getting worse, and what may have triggered it. The scalp condition, pattern of thinning, and your overall suitability are also considered before any plan is discussed. This consultation-led approach helps make the next step more personalized, more ethical, and more appropriate for your actual concern. After in-person evaluation, treatment planning may include medical guidance, scalp care, and a structured plan based on your pattern and goals. In some cases, supportive options like PRP, GFC, QR678, or mesotherapy may be considered when they are clinically appropriate. The important thing is that these are not one-size-fits-all solutions. Suitability depends on what is actually causing the hair change. That is why an in-person consultation matters. It helps separate what sounds promising online from what makes sense for you. It is also important to set expectations realistically. Hair recovery is rarely instant, and progress usually takes time. Results can vary from person to person because the cause, duration, scalp condition, and response to treatment are not the same for everyone. Some cases may need multiple sessions, supportive maintenance, lifestyle correction, or a combination plan after proper in-person assessment. The goal is not dramatic promises. It is safe, appropriate planning based on what your scalp and hair actually need. If you have been noticing persistent hair fall, thinning, a receding hairline, or more visible scalp, you do not have to keep guessing. You can visit the Bare & Beauty website to learn more about the consultation process and the kinds of care that may be discussed in clinic. And if you are ready for clarity, you can book an in-person consultation at Bear & Beauty Aesthetic and Wellness, Sector 50, Noida. A proper evaluation can help you understand what is normal, what may need attention, and what the next step could look like for you.